meeting members please take your seats?
All right. Good luck.
Would all town meeting members please take their seats? Please be seated. It has to go to a vote then. You can't withdraw it. Okay. Yep. There's an excellent. As somebody who arrived here in a Chrysler automobile, there's an X in the license plate. I don't have it. Those lights are on.
You all ready?
All right, attention, we need to get started. The meeting will come to order. The meeting will come to order. At this town meeting, laid on the table two articles from last night, Article 17 and 21. So if you recall where we were, Article 26, there was a motion to reconsider, which, all right, if everybody stops talking, you'll be able to hear me. Where we were when we ended, if you recall, there was a motion to reconsider Article 26, which was defeated. And in case you're wondering why I'm saying that is because I didn't declare the vote when I looked at the tape. At any rate, we then moved on and finished Article 27. And we had laid on the table two articles, so we are starting tonight with Article 17. And the moderator recognizes Chief Afanato for the purposes of making an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I guess according to the bylaw, at this time, at this meeting, all I can amend our budget is to what it refers to in Table 10 at the end of the warrant. So at this time, I will read these figures in. The only changes are in the third column on the top of the page, page 25, under recommended fiscal 97. Salaries and wages, $2,437,701. General expenses, 89,034. New equipment, 13,975. The other numbers remain the same. Reopening, 0. Unpaid bills, 622. Vaccinations, 7,800, for a total of 2,549,132. That total will change the grand total at the end of the article to 6,951,352.
Is there a second to that motion? You wish to speak to the motion, Chief?
Again, it's maybe a misunderstanding, maybe some confusion. I assumed I was submitting, what I submitted was the same budget as last year that I'm under right now. I hope in the near future I can work with the board to iron this out. And I want to thank everybody for their support.
Recognize the chair of the Warrant Committee for the Warrant Committee's position on the amendment.
We need a minute.
Okay. Does anybody leave? But relax for a minute. We'll recognize you, sir, while the Warrant Committee is making up its mind. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Chris Huban, Precinct 4. I understand there's a line item for vaccinations of $7,800. There's been some discussion that the Milton Hospital contributes some sort of services or monies to the town for being a nonprofit organization. Is there any way of including this $7,800 in some sort of request to the Milton Hospital to take care of this in lieu of services?
All right. Mary Fitzgerald is recognized both to answer the question and to give the Warrant Committee's position.
This $7,800 came up very late in the budget. Is it not on? Okay now? No? Excuse me, Mr. Shields? You'd like not to hear me at all? How do you do the volume? Does anybody know? Just lean into it. Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, this is comfortable. Basically, the $7,800 addition came up after we really had gone over the entire budget. We were told that the firemen needed the hepatitis B vaccines, and it was $150 per person. Not knowing that two of the shots had already been given in this fiscal year, the Warrant Committee worked with the Board of Health to see if there was any way that it could be done either cheaper or with donated vaccine or something like that. But upon finding out that the program had already been started, and at that time 1 shot, and I think 2 shots have been done by now, there wasn't any point in doing that. I spoke with the chief to ask him if he had made an arrangement with Milton Hospital to wait until the next fiscal year for payment, considering the fact that he wasn't going to have this money to be able to spend it until the next fiscal year. And he said he hadn't spoken with them, and I have not heard from him back at this point in time. So as to whether or not we can eliminate it from the budget and then say to Milton Hospital, we'd like you to donate this, thank you very much. I would think it might not be the best way to do it, so that perhaps we could encourage someone to speak to Milton Hospital and see if that's possible, but I would suggest that we keep the money in the budget because obviously the shots have been given and they need to be paid for. And the warrant committee recommends a no vote on the reconsideration and the amendment.
Anyone else wish to speak to the amendment? Yes, sir.
Max Horvath, Precinct 1. I'm confused. Does this cut in this budget mean that the station has to close?
Okay. Mary Fitzgerald?
No, it does not. Obviously, it's not the motion on the floor, which is what the chief wanted to do, to put the whole $260,000 back into his budget, which he is operating under this year, rightfully so, because that was the vote of town meeting. What I think we all have to understand that in that $260,000, there were some one-time costs. For instance, $36,000 for training and overtime. Obviously, we won't continue training them next year and the year after and the year after. That is done. So there was turnout gear, there was a new engine generator, there was station repairs, and there was this training and overtime, which were one-time items which don't repeat themselves. Then, besides that, included in the $260,000 were the medical and pensions and those kinds of things for those firemen for this year, because they weren't in the regular budget. But for the 97 budget, they are now plugged into the appropriate articles. They're in the other articles. They're not in the fire department budget because nobody's is in their budget. It's in separate articles. So when people get concerned that the same amount of money is not in there, it's not necessary that it be in there. This budget that the warrant committee approved will keep Atherton Street open. There is absolutely no chance that it would close. We made some reductions of about $50,000 in overtime and out of grade and some other things in their budget, with the thought process that because they have more men, that perhaps there could be a reduction on overtime, because in many instances, overtime is used to fill positions, for people that aren't there because they want to do a certain minimum manning. If you have more people, you should be able to fill those positions without going to overtime as much. And that was the rationale that the warrant committee used in making this rather small cut.
Mr. Kraft?
Michael Kraft, Precinct 5. I have a couple of questions which sort of follow on what Ms. Fitzgerald was just discussing. I gather that the current staffing will be maintained, but with East Milton in somewhat of a disarray with traffic patterns and so forth, might this have an adverse effect on service elsewhere? And I'd also like to hear from the chief if he's able to comment on what would be the effect of the difference between the budget as recommended by the warrant committee and what the chief has proposed this evening by way of his amendment, and what his opinion would be of the effect if we don't pass his amendment.
Okay. Chief, are you willing to speak to that? Chief Afanato is recognized.
The total cut in the budget is $164,000. It's not $50 that the warrant committee has made cuts on. Those cuts we could probably live with, but a $164,000 cut out of a $2.6 million budget is quite severe. An overtime figure is something that isn't a definite figure for each year. It varies every year depending on vacations, sickness, overtime, and how much you have of each of those items. So it's a very hard thing to determine. Hiring 4 more men doesn't automatically mean that there's going to be less overtime. The 4 men were hired to open another station. The stations now, at least the 2 outside stations, run at minimum manpower. If there's somebody out sick or injured, the position has to be filled. If it can't be filled from moving a firefighter up from the headquarters station, somebody has to be hired. If an officer is out on vacation, sickness, or injured, out-of-grade pay comes in when a firefighter or another officer moves up to fill that position. This is a fairly standard figure, and it's been submitted in about the same amount has been submitted for that particular out-of-grade line item every year. The sick leave buyback is a $12,000 item that's used for award firefighters who have accumulated sick days and retire. This is these plans are both contractual arrangements. If the $12,000, if nobody retired and the $12,000 isn't used, it goes back in the general fund. But it's monies that are put in every year, and like I say, if they're not used, they're returned. I'm not sure if I answered Mr. Kraft's question.
Well, Chief, could you comment, please, on the difference between the amount as authorized by the warrant committee and the amount that you're asking for tonight, what you think the effect will be?
It's difficult to say. Like I said, if it was just a $50,000 cut, as they have done, we probably could live with it. But there's another $113,000 that was also cut from the budget, and that's going to make it very difficult. Some of the repairs that were done to the station, the outside of the station is in extremely tough condition. It's been over 35 years since anything's been done to the outside. The roof is in terrible condition, along with some of the sidewall shingles, and there's also considerable carpentry work to be done. Seeing at the station this year, I know we voted the 260 got voted by the people last June, but because of hiring practices and background checks, physicals, et cetera, the firefighters weren't hired and the station wasn't open until the first week in September. So basically this year, it will only be open for 43 weeks instead of 52. Where we had the 260 was already appropriated, I thought it'd be a ideal time to get these repairs done with the money that wasn't going to be used for running the station. I put bids out, I advertised bids to get repairs. We had 3 bidders come in and submit, and we have chosen the contractor to put a roof on and do the other repairs. Yes, that's a one-time item. But there again, we had that many weeks worth of money to use for that. So I hope I'm answering Mr. Kraft's question. Like I say, this size of a cut is really extreme, and I don't know if we're going to be able to handle it or not.
Thank you, Chief. Yes, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Steve Morash, Precinct 2. A couple of questions and a comment. Or actually, a comment, then a couple of questions, please. Reviewing the budgets that were submitted here. Out of 35 town department and office budgets in this warrant, 23 budgets were increased, 7 were decreased, and 5 remain the same. Out of the public safety realm, out of 8 budgets, 5 were increased, 1 remained the same, and 2 were decreased. Of those that remained the same, one was the Milton Emergency Management Agency, which I believe in most jurisdictions comes under the fire department, if not working cooperatively with the police department. The 2 that were decreased were the fire department budget, which we all understand, $164,000, and the wire department. And in the wire department, those budgets that were decreased were directly attributable to things the fire department does. Now, I listened to a radio show in the morning, and they talked about the Whitewater hearings going on in Washington. And what is the First Family doing? They seem like they're covering something up, like there's nothing really happening there. And I just have to wonder out loud to myself and my neighbors, what's happening here with the fire department in Milton? It looks like it's constantly under attack, and we don't understand why. As far as Article 17, the chief spoke a little bit a while ago about the $260,000 approved by the voters to keep Atherton Street open. Could someone show me exactly where that is in this budget before we leave tonight? Also, under Article 9, we did approve a new fire engine for Engine 2. There was some confusion last night talking with members here. When will we see the new fire engine for Engine 2? And how will those specifications be put together? There's an opportunity for the new Engine 2 to do some of the things that the Town Fire Study Committee recommended 2 years ago. And some of those recommendations, above and beyond the Atherton Street Fire Station, still could be worked upon to increase the productivity and the effectiveness of our fire department here in Milton. So I'd like to know when we can see those recommendations implemented, and by what mechanism will they be implemented? Thank you.
Does anybody wish to address? I'm not, can you go back to the microphone, Mr. Marash, because I'm not clear what your second, I think your first question is where in the budget is the $260,000 appropriated
Right.
last year?
That seems to be a non-negotiable
but you-
item from the town.
But your
not from the
second
town
question
members.
is unclear to me with respect to the new Engine 2.
Some folks here were a little concerned about the language in Article 9 in the comment. How soon will we see that?
How soon will we see what?
A bid going out
The
to bid
fire
for
engine
Engine
itself?
2?
Pardon me?
For the new Engine 2?
Okay, I am told it takes at least a year.
Mr. Morash, it takes at least a year to order and get a fire engine. It is my understanding that the chief is working on the specifications, and that's who will develop them. The article was written as if it was going to be bonded, because as I said yesterday, we weren't sure how town meeting would vote on the stabilization fund. We would hope to come back next year with an article to take away the bonding authorization and borrow from the stabilization fund in order to pay for the fire engine. But it will be at least a year, and I'm told that that's standard.
But we are seeing a new Engine 2 within a year, perhaps.
That's
Great.
what I'm told.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
And the last question, when will we see some of the other recommendations of the Fire Town Study Committee implemented, or at least worked on toward implementation? Atherton Street was only one of many that we did work on.
Are you addressing that to the chief?
Or the selectmen or whoever.
John Michael, okay. Thank you, Mr. Marash. John Michael Shields?
Thank you. John Michael Shields, Town Meeting Member for Precinct 2, member of the Board of Selectmen. I was also a member of the Fire Study Committee with you, Mr. Marash. Just to make a brief comment on what has happened aside from the opening of the Atherton Street Fire Station. You'll recall last year, I'm sure very well, Mr. Marash, it is not my opinion that the opening of the Atherton Street Station in the manner that it was completely in compliance with what was recommended with the fire study, as you well know. But since the fire study was submitted, even before last year's debate on Atherton Street, the selectmen, in conjunction with the Warrant Committee and the fire chief, started to implement some of the things we talked about in the fire study. We did go for better turnout gear. We did order better breathing apparatus. We have worked towards, or at least we're trying to work towards more foam, which was something I know that you brought up quite frequently. And, you know, it's an ongoing process. We are fully cognizant of what was in the fire study, and we are working on those issues. With regard to what was recommended last year, that $260,000 $260,000 figure, which was another part of your question. I just comment that we should recall that last year at the annual town meeting in May, the fire chief's original recommendation on what amount of money would be required to open the station was approximately, as I recall, $185,000, not $260,000. If you recall, we had to wait a day or 2 days while we got the figures straight between the two sides, so that we did settle on that figure of $260,000. Mrs. Fitzgerald is absolutely right. Out of that $260,000 to open the station, some of it was about $110,000 in toto was non-recurring money that we don't need this year to keep the station at the same status. There is absolutely no movement on the part of the selectmen or the warrant committee to change the vote of the town taxpayers and the town meeting to close Atherton Street, even though we might have some reservations about the way it was opened. And those are arguments that we can have, Mr. Morash. But there is absolutely no movement by us to close that station. It will stay open as long as I'm a selectman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Malcolm Larson, Precinct 11. I think it's very obvious here that once again the fire department is being held to a totally different standard than every other department in the town, and it only takes a couple of seconds to breeze down page 25 of the warrant, and it becomes very obvious when we look at who does get cuts and who doesn't get cuts, and how they're justified. And I was never a real whiz kid in Milton with math, but seems like $260,000 minus $160,000 equals $100,000. And you can kind of doctor it up and take it out of one end and say it's not out of the override money, but it looks to me like $160,000 of an override that a lot of people in this town worked very hard to fight for has been taken out, and it is going to something else. I think it's interesting that the chairperson of the warrant committee can get up there and guarantee to the town of Milton that Atherton Street Station will not close this year. I hope everybody remembers that you made that statement, and it may be very likely with this $160,000 cut that they may be held to that. And I'd like to know if somebody from the warrant committee, the Board of Selectmen will also get up and promise to the town floor that Atherton Street will not close. And this selectmen election that just passed, which there was some 40 or 50 votes or whatever between the two candidates, I think that might tell us a lot more about the way the people of Milton feel about the way government is being run in this town than it did about the personalities of the two people that were running.
All right, I'm going to, are you through?
Yes, I'd just like to know if that was clear from the Board of Selectmen that they promised the town of Milton
All right.
that Atherton Street will not close this year.
All right, thank you for your comments. Now, there was a little bit of this last night, and a number of members brought it up to me. The level of debate is enhanced by persons refraining from making ad hominem comments. And if it continues, I will rule them out of order. There is absolutely no necessity for making a point, for example, to turn and say, well, Mary Fitzgerald said this and whatnot. It does not aid in the debate. And, your time will come and go, and you have free speech rights, and probably little I can do about it except to tell you that it does not aid the debate. I don't like it, and if it gets too severe, I will start ruling people out of order. We had a little bit last night. And I don't think it helps. I don't think it moves the meeting along. Mr. Mullen, you're recognized.
Mr. Moderator, Peter Mullen, Precinct 3. Mr. Moderator, I'm frustrated with this entire debate with regard to the fire department budget. I'm frustrated with the chief because I think if the chief feels that the budget is not adequate, that he owes it to the town meeting to get up here and to articulate what's wrong with the budget, what the problems are, what the consequences are, and I don't think he's done that. I'm frustrated with the warrant committee because they tell us that they're opposed to this amendment but they don't tell us why they're opposed. They don't frame the question in any way. They don't tell us anything about the differences between the two proposals. Until I stood up to speak, I was frustrated with the Board of Selectmen because I don't think they had explained to us why they believe that the money to maintain the Atherton Street Fire Station is in this budget. I think Mr. Shields, to some degree, has addressed that issue. Last year at the town meeting, I supported the proposal to put this on the budget, on the ballot. I felt that there was sufficient support within the town to submit the question to the town. I think the town voted. I think the town said that they want the Atherton Street Fire Station open. I take the representation in the warrant that there is sufficient money in this budget as recommended by the warrant committee to maintain and to keep open the Atherton Street Fire Station at its face value. You'll notice the note, the asterisk and the note in the middle of page 25. As a town meeting member who comes to town meeting, I look to the warrant committee and the Board of Selectmen to frame the issues for us, to tell us what the consequences are, and then let people decide. I don't think that that has happened. I would point out to the body that the difference between the two figures, the figure that the chief has recommended and the figure that the warrant committee has recommended, is approximately $50,000 or $51,000. I think in the total budget of the department, that's not a tremendously significant amount. If there's some kind of a shortfall, it seems to me that it can come through some kind of a transfer from the reserve fund, or if we have a later town meeting, we can do an additional appropriation. Therefore, I'm urging the body to vote no, but I'm hoping that we can get more information with regard to future articles. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion on the motion? Yes, ma'am, you're recognized.
Yes, Linda Craven, Town Meeting, Precinct 4. My question is to the chief. He mentioned that the fire station was in disrepair, and I'm wondering if he has to pay for those repairs out of the budget that he's put in this in this book or in his budget.
Okay, Chief, can you answer that question? The question, I believe, is whether the repairs are included in the budget as you've proposed in your amendment.
Maybe I didn't make it as clear as I should have. The present repairs that are scheduled to be done should come out of this fiscal year budget. Reason being, because there will be an excess this year because of the station only being open 43 weeks. So there shouldn't be any appropriation, any other appropriation have to be made to have these repairs done. I hope I answered that. Yes, this fiscal year.
Okay. Well, I guess my question is, why wouldn't those repairs come under capital needs? Because I noticed the police station roof comes under that for $13,000 in Article 9. Why wouldn't the fire station be a capital needs project?
So the question is, why are the repairs not under the capital needs?
Right, the police station roof is, but I understand that the maintenance of the fire station isn't.
Okay, Mary Fitzgerald is recognized.
When the $260,000 was developed last year as the amount of money needed to reopen Atherton Street, there was money put into the budget, $19,000 for repairs. Those are the repairs that the chief is talking about. He already has received the money to do them in the override, in the $260,000. And Mr. Mullen, I would hate to have you upset with the warrant committee, so let's see if I can frame the issue a little bit better. We have nothing to do with the $160,000 that the chief is talking about. The budget that we received did not request that. We made a cut of some $50,000 in some items that we felt, given the additional men, that they could be able to handle with less overtime and less out of grade. As to the $12,000 buyback, we asked the chief, did he have anybody retiring? He said no. So we did not see the reason for putting $12,000 in, because contrary to what the chief says, he has line item autonomy. He can spend his money anywhere, and it doesn't necessarily guarantee it would be returned back to the town.
Anyone else wish to speak? Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Neely.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First of all, the Board of Selectmen is on record in this budget process as supporting the fire department. After the budget was submitted, the chief requested $7,800 be added for the shots that you read about and discussed earlier. So that was a budget request after the initial budget request. The board supported and forwarded that request to the warrant committee and included the funds. The board also is on record as supporting Engine 2. Went ahead and included that in the capital section that was referred to earlier. So the board has a clear record this year of supporting the fire department. We've gone ahead and tried to put in as much money as we can, understanding that it's a level service budget, not level funds, level service. That's the criteria, level service. The board's position is based upon the current service level, which is the full operation of the 3 fire stations as you know it today. As you go through these cuts, which are approximately just over $160,000, the Board of Selectmen initially went through and reduced the overtime. And the overtime request was $204,000, just over $204,000 by the chief. The board cut that to $182,000, and the warrant committee finished that process at $132,000, based upon the issues that have been described to you by the chairman of the warrant committee. The Board of Selectmen also cut the non-salaried items. And the non-salaried items were cut $15,000 from the request. The balance that's in the budget today is 10% higher than the expenses that actually were spent 2 years ago. A 10% increase is more than most departments get for non-salaried expenses. So that what's remaining, if you look in your warrant, you'll see approximately $82,000 in your fire article for the non-salaried expenses. There's over $89,000 recommended in this budget. So approximately 10%, give or take a percent, 9% if you want to argue that, has been included. That's not a 2.5% increase each year. So we have included increases, and that number was held at the same number by the warrant committee. In addition to that, the new equipment line was reduced $41,000. Of that $41,000, $20,000 was for a new car. There's certainly at some point in time the chief deserves to have a car. The question is what type of car, whether it's a new car. But the feeling was that in this particular year, this was not the year to provide the additional equipment. As you can see from looking at the warrant, there is equipment included. All budgets have had equipment reduced. If you look at the police budget in this warrant, there's a $60,000 reduction. Some of that is new equipment. So the point is, in total, $74,000 of direct Atherton Street expenses, the one-time expenses, were essentially eliminated from the budget, and that was composed of the $18,550 station repair, which is underway, $36,000 related to overtime while the new recruits are being trained, $4,540 for the turnout gear, and $4,800 for the new engine generator. $46,000, essentially, which is the Medicare, the pension, and the group health, has already been approved by this town meeting in the budget for group insurance and the other fringe benefits. So you have a total of $110,000 that should not be in the budget because either it's been included in your article that you approved earlier, or it was one-time startup expenses. That's $110,000. The balance of that money, $41,000 of equipment and $15,000 of non-salaried expenses, was felt to be in the spirit of all the cuts that have been made to maintain level services. So there should be no reduction. Now, the history is that if you serve on the warrant committee or if you served in many of these boards, you'll find that in certain times, firemen get injured on the job and medical expenses may exceed the budget. The history is the warrant committee and the Board of Selectmen have approved those expenses to reimburse for medical expenses. We also have approved overtime. So if a fireman has been hurt on the job and overtime replacement is needed, both boards have approved those expenditures. So the fact is that, as the chief said, it's difficult to come in right on the button because of unforeseen circumstances. And that's why we have this $200,000 reserve fund, which in the years I was on the warrant committee, we used to supplement when it was needed for overtime or for medical expenses. So the point is, our board is willing and will continue to support the fire department on unforeseen circumstances. We are trying to maintain a level service budget, and that's all we're asking you to support. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to the amendment? We move to a vote on the amendment. Now, you are voting on whether to amend the recommendation of the warrant committee as proposed by the chief. All right, so you're voting, if you're voting aye, you're voting to amend it as recommended by, as proposed by the chief. You're voting no, the recommendation of the warrant committee is unchanged. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The amendment does not carry. Does anyone else wish to speak substantively to Article 17? All right, now, as a matter of moderator's privilege, I'm going to divide the question. There are two sections, if you'll note, under fire and police for unpaid bills. $622 for fire and $1,854 for unpaid bills in the police department. And I need a unanimous vote on that. So I'm going to divide the question. All those in favor of paying the unpaid bills portion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, it's unanimous on the unpaid bills. Okay, now we're going to go for the rest of the article. All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Okay, the ayes have it. And the recommendation of the warrant committee is adopted. Now, testing to my own humanity, the second follow-up, in addition to not taking the vote, is with respect to Article 21. Mr. Mullen does remind me that the motion to lay on the table did not carry, and I got caught up on a discussion with respect to its form, and I don't believe that I actually got a vote on Article 21. Mr. Livingston, who was the chief proponent, is not pressing the article, but has asked if he could speak to the intent of the article, and he is recognized now to do so, and then I will go immediately to a vote on Article 21.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I appreciate this privilege that you've afforded me. Mr. Moderator, Board of Selectmen, Warrant Committee, colleagues of the town meeting, my amendment last night was predicated on the senior citizens, seeing escalating property tax bills, living on a fixed income. I would like to propose a work-off program for Milton elderly residents and property owners. Although the article submitted by town meeting member Tingus calls for an abatement, I would like to propose an elderly work-off, work-fair, work-for-tax relief, or elderly tax credit program. That's something that would have to be looked at. I feel if the town of Milton can successfully run a 30, 60, 90-day jobs program for the youth of Milton, why not the elderly? Why not put those elderly who are ready, willing, and able to work, given that opportunity? I envision them working in tandem with the youth of our town. Our town doesn't want to be giving one group of residents a preference over another because we risk harming our sense of community, and we set the stage for intergenerational conflict. That would be exceedingly divisive, and I could not in good conscience support it. Mr. Moderator, I would like to continue my research on an elderly tax credit voucher program, similar to the one in Hopedale, successfully since 1992. The program allows a $500 tax credit in exchange for 100 hours of service provided to the local government. This would require an appropriation of $5,000 to fund the credits and get the idea off the ground. Besides Hopedale, Chelmsford, Lexington, Bellingham, Norfolk, Holliston, Duxbury, Canton, and now this week, Stoughton, Situate, Marshfield, and Cohasset, just to mention a few municipalities that have instituted formats that are both simple and I'm sure will be successful in providing three incentives for our senior citizens. The incentive for some to get back into circulation after their retirement, the incentive to get the tax voucher, and the incentive to be a mentor to the youth of our town and help them understand the work ethic of their day. Mr. Moderator, I would like to ask your continued assistance. I appreciate the assistance you have given to me and would like to work with you to see some form of, quote, senior tax credit program for Milton, unquote, come to fruition for the elderly of our town. I'm happy to see that the selectmen have seen some merit to a senior workforce and will be posting the jobs in Town Hall starting next week. And the Council on Aging. Thank you, Rick. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to take this opportunity. I'm sure I gave out several articles that were in the South Weekly explaining the Duxbury program. That was the intent of my amendment to Article 21 last night. And where it does not and would not carry legal muster at the State House or what have you, I'm going to bring it back at a later date when it's in better form. So I thank you for your indulgence, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Mr. Shields informs me that my uncertainty over whether I got the second vote is unnecessary because he viewed the tape, and in fact, the vote on the article was taken and it was turned down. So we'll now turn to Article 28, which is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for maintaining, repairing, improving, and constructing ways under the provision of General Laws, Chapter 90. Said sum or any portion thereof to be used in conjunction with any money which may be allotted by the state for this purpose, to determine how said appropriation shall be raised, whether by borrowing or otherwise, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the sum of $475,273 be appropriated for the purposes set forth in this article, that to meet said appropriation, the Treasurer be authorized to issue, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, bonds or secured notes in the amount of $475,000, that the sum of $273 be raised in the tax levy, that the town vote to accept grants under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 90, in the amount of $475,273, the said reimbursements from the state 100% to be restored upon their receipt to the town treasury. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the Warrant Committee is carried. Article 29 is to see if the town, without the assessment of betterments and without making an appropriation, will vote to accept the following streets as town ways as laid out by the Selectmen: Barton's Lane, from previously accepted sections southerly to the end, Carberry Lane, entire length, and to act on anything relating thereto. The moderator recognizes Mary Fitzgerald, Chair of the Warrant Committee, for an amendment. I will recognize that Mr. Whiteside from the Planning Board.
The Planning Board would ask that Carberry Lane be deleted. There's still some work to be done there. We anticipate that it'll be ready at the next meeting, but that it be deleted from this article tonight.
If that's included in the recommendation of the Warrant Committee, we won't have to have an amendment.
Okay. The Warrant Committee recommends a yes vote on, how do you want me to put it, just in the positive? On the acceptance of Barton's Lane as a town way as laid out by the Board of Selectmen. Good enough?
Okay. Now, that's the recommendation of the Warrant Committee.
Correct.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the Warrant Committee, Barton's Lane, will be accepted. Article 30 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for health and sanitation for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 1996, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the town appropriate the amounts shown in the following tabulation under the heading recommended. Board of Health, the total is $85,754. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is adopted. Article 31 is to see if the town will vote pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half of the Massachusetts General Laws to establish a library revolving fund in order to utilize the revenues collected from fines for overdue materials and from charges for lost or damaged materials for the purpose of purchasing new books and other related materials, to authorize the Board of Library Trustees to expend money from such revolving fund, to determine a limit on the total amount which may be expended from such revolving fund in the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1996, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the town vote yes to establish a library revolving fund to utilize the revenues collected from fines for overdue materials and from charges for lost or damaged materials for the purpose of purchasing new books and other related materials, and to limit expenditures for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1996 to $25,000. Total amount of receipts and expenditures from the revolving fund will be subject to periodic review by the Board of Selectmen and the Treasurer. The moderator recognizes Mary Fitzgerald, Chair of the Warrant Committee, for an amendment to the recommendation of the Warrant Committee.
The Warrant Committee is amending the recommendation. On the last paragraph, I'm going to give you some new language. The Board of Library Trustees will report annually the total amount of receipts and expenditures from the revolving fund to the Board of Selectmen and the annual town meeting. The Warrant Committee recommends a yes vote on this. Obviously, as in the past, the library, along with a fair number of other boards, has had to suffer with the decline in available funds that we've had. And we feel this is a very good way. We're restricting the use of their fees, of their fines, for the purchase of books and other related material, and hopefully that will bring their book budget a little bit up closer to what it actually should be.
Mr. Neely, you recommend.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Town Council advises that the state statute requires the Board of Selectmen to officially recommend this, so I ask that our recommendation be included in the official minutes of the meeting and be forwarded to whatever state authorities need this information. So the Board of Selectmen is on record as supporting this.
Any further discussion? Mr. Vonneran, did you wish to? You're recognized.
I'm Robert Vonneran, Precinct 3 Town Meeting Member and Chair of the Library Trustees. I thank you for the opportunity of speaking in favor of this article. In the past, the library has had discretionary funds could be used for various purposes beyond the scope of the budget. In recent years, in tight budget years, we've had to allocate these discretionary funds from the trust funds and so forth to necessary expenditures for books so that we would meet accreditation standards for the state. We feel that this fund is necessary to keep our standards high. When the library override was turned down, the library trustees are committed to providing the best possible service within the restraints of the budget and the facilities. We feel that $25,000 will not solve all our problems. There are many. But it will be a fund generating other funds. It will allow us to release other funds for necessary repairs of the building. It will allow us to qualify for more grants and gifts. We feel that there'll be a multiplier effect of this. And what would we like to do? You read in last night's record transcript, we'd like to air condition the library, among other things, providing the library trustees approve it. We'd like to upgrade the technology for the computer information highway. It's an exciting enterprise to provide free flow of information electronically. We feel that this fund will give us the versatility and the help we need to provide better service to the people of Milton. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Article 31? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Article 31 is unanimously carried as recommended by the Warrant Committee.
Moderator.
Article 32.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
Frank O'Brien, Precinct 7. I'm a little confused on what the town meeting did regarding Article 29. And I hesitate to bring it up, but I just would like to be clear on exactly what occurred. I believe that Mr. Whiteside suggested that Carberry Lane be deleted from the recommendation?
Yes.
Am I correct in assuming that that should have been in the form of a motion, be properly seconded and voted upon?
No. Now, let me explain what I did. It could have been done that way, but he recommended, and we did not have the recommendation of the warrant committee, so I suggested if the deletion was included in the recommendation of the warrant committee, and the recommendation was that only Barton's Lane be accepted, you were voting on the recommendation of the warrant committee, so I was able to save one step.
Thank
That's
you,
all
Mr.
that happened.
Moderator. I apologize for
No
interrupting.
problem.
Thank you for your indulgence.
No. I encourage all those questions. We are now on Article 32, which is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for the public library for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 1996, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town appropriate the amounts shown in the following tabulation under the heading recommended. That totals $613,557. The department is hereby authorized to sell or exchange all equipment to furnish additional funds for new equipment. Mary Fitzgerald is recognized.
I have two changes in the recommended 97 column. In the first, under salaries and wages, I'm adding the sum of $9,786, so the new number becomes $499,786. That is the money that is presently in the Council on Aging budget that is going to be paid to the library for utilities and the use of the Kidder Library. The Board of Trustees of the library would like to attempt to use some of this money for a limited Sunday opening, which is something that the warrant committee supports. It's something that if we had had some extra money, we would have liked to have just included into the library budget. So in order for them to be able to spend it on personnel, it has to appear in their salary and wages line. The town accountant will treat it as available funds coming from the Council on Aging budget and being transferred to this budget. And therefore, the total will change from $613,557 to $623,343. The one other item that I would mention in this budget is the $15,000 capital expense. This is needed by the Council on Aging. It's repaving of the parking lot around the Kidder Library and some expansion. It's basically needed for the use by the Council on Aging. To the degree that the library gets a grant on expenditures, we thought it made sense to include it in the library budget because perhaps it might increase the grant that we get a little bit, and it also made sense because the library is still the landlord for that building.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, sir.
Jeff Wilkinson, Precinct 11. Are there sufficient funds in this budget for the library to be state certified in the coming fiscal year?
For it to be state certified. Mr. Vonneran, can you answer that, or Mary? Do we know?
As we were beginning this meeting tonight, some people from the library trustees came up to tell me, you need another $1,000 in your book line, is that? No. Okay. Why don't you come up and explain to the people and to the warrant committee what it is that's the problem?
For certification, the state requires that 13% of the appropriated funds be expended for books. The $29,000 plus that is in the budget will be insufficient, will have to be supplemented by about $50,000 in gifts and other acquisitions.
Any further discussion? All right, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Recommendation of the warrant committee is adopted. Article 33 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for the maintenance and improvement of the cemetery for the year beginning July 1, 1996, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town appropriate the amount shown in the following tabulation under the heading recommended. That totals $418,050, and that to meet said appropriation, the sum of $230,550 be raised from the tax levy of the fiscal year, and that the balance of the appropriation be transferred from available funds as follows: Proceeds from the sale of burial rights, $67,500. Income from cemetery perpetual care fund, $120,000. The department is authorized to sell or exchange old equipment to furnish additional funds for new equipment. And Mr. Reardon, did you want to be recognized? You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, I'm Joe Reardon, Precinct 2 Town Meeting member and member of the trustees of the Milton Cemetery. I rise on behalf of the members of the trustees of the cemetery to ask for your support of this article and also to clarify a point of explanation with regard to the budget of the Milton Cemetery. As many of you may know, as members of the Board of Selectmen know, as members of the Warrant Committee know, there are funds generated from the sale of burial rights and from the interest income accrued by the Perpetual Care Fund. Now, these funds, which for this fiscal year will be $187,500, are to be transferred to the cemetery for operating expenses. We are still left with an option, and unfortunately a decision that has to be made, to turn to the tax levy for an additional $230,550, so that we may meet our budget of $418,550. However, during the course of any given fiscal year, additional funds which are not mentioned in the warrant are raised by the cemetery. These funds, which are generated from the collection of rents, from the collection of recording fees, from the collection of fees from interments, and from the laying of foundations, are turned over to the general fund. In doing so, the Milton Cemetery not only helps to alleviate the dependence on the tax levy, but also helps to produce revenue for the town and the general fund. Over the past 5 years, the average appropriation for the Milton Cemetery has been $411,414.60, while it has produced an average income of $440,710.60. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an insignificant amount of money for many of you, but it does produce revenue from the town. The Milton Cemetery also provides a tremendously valuable, yet often unrecognized service to the residents of this town. For many of you who may have had the fortune of not having to visit the cemetery, you may be unaware of the service that it provides to those in this community who have lost someone in their family to death. The Milton Cemetery, in my estimation as a trustee, and also in my personal observation as a funeral director, is one of the finest and the best run, managed, and maintained municipal cemeteries in this general area. The superintendent of the cemetery, Therese Desmond Sills, and her staff have done a tremendous job in maintaining this facility, this service, while helping to ease the burden of cost for those families who choose to have their loved ones interred in this local cemetery. So I ask this town meeting tonight to support Article 33, to recognize the fact that the Milton Cemetery provides a tremendous service to the residents of this community, and also to be aware of how the budgetary decisions are made with regard to it. So I ask for your support and your continued support and consideration for the service that is the Milton Cemetery.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reardon. Is there any other discussion under the article? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is adopted. Article 34 is to see if the town will vote to accept the following gifts to the Milton Cemetery for the planting of flowers and placing of decorations and the beautification of the Milton Cemetery as specified by the donor or bequest. Gertrude S. Rettenauer, a gift of $1,100. Maria F. Rassiopi, a gift of $1,000. Robert B. Welts, a gift of $1,000. In the estate of Thomas S. W. Magner, Sr., a gift of $1,000, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town vote yes. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the warrant committee is adopted. Article 35 is to see if the town will vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 114, Section 34, to grant permission to St. Michael's Episcopal Church of Milton, Massachusetts, to use a portion of its land for the burial of the ashes of deceased members of the church and their families. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town vote yes. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the warrant committee is adopted. Article 36 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to authorize the Board of Park Commissioners to expend during the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1996, for the purpose of maintenance and repair of town parks and recreational facilities pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2 of the Massachusetts General Laws, from the revolving fund established by vote of March 1994 annual town meeting under Article 37, for fees received from the use of town parks and recreational facilities and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town vote to continue the revolving fund created under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, established by vote of the March 1994 annual town meeting under Article 37, to authorize the Park Department to utilize fees received from the use of town parks and recreational facilities for the purpose of maintenance and repair of town parks and recreational facilities, and to limit expenditures in the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1996 to $20,000. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the warrant committee is adopted. Article 37 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 1996 for the operation of parks and recreation, and to see if the town will vote to authorize the continued use of the Park and Recreation Revolving Fund pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 18 of the general bylaws of the town, and to act on anything relating thereto. It's recommended by the warrant committee that the town appropriate the amounts shown in the following tabulation under the heading recommended, and the total is $218,932. The moderator recognizes the chair of the warrant committee, Mary Fitzgerald.
We're adding some language after the total under the recommendation. We're adding the words, "and that the town continues the use of the Park and Recreation Revolving Fund pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 18 of the general bylaws of the town of Milton."
Give a copy of that. Okay. Is there further discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee as amended, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the warrant committee is adopted. Article 38 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for renovations to the quarter-mile athletic track and football soccer field at Brooks Field. Said money to be spent under the jurisdiction of the Board of Park Commissioners, and to act on anything relating thereto. Recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town appropriate the sum of $51,000 for the purpose set forth in this article. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the warrant committee is adopted. Article 39 is to see if the town will vote to amend Section 29A of Chapter 6 of the town's general bylaws so as to read in its entirety as follows. No person or organization or corporation may sell any merchandise or services on any public park or playground, nor erect or maintain a booth, stand, tent, or apparatus of any kind for the purpose of a financial profit after July 1, 1965, provided, however, that notwithstanding the foregoing, the Board of Park Commissioners acting on behalf of the town of Milton may erect or maintain a permanent structure, parents to be owned by the town in parents, for any purpose consistent with the provision or support of athletic or recreational facilities to citizens of the town, parents including without limitation for the purpose of providing storage facilities, bathroom facilities, or locker space, or for the purpose of providing permanent space and or facilities which could be used from time to time by a qualified organization, parents as defined in said Section 29B, and parents to operate a non-permanent concession as contemplated by Section 29B of this Chapter 6 and parents, and to act on anything relating thereto. Moderator recognizes Mary Fitzgerald for the recommendation of the Warrant Committee.
The Warrant Committee recommends a no vote. Well, I was given to
Chair,
understand that it
Moderator
might...
recognizes you to explain why you're recommending no.
Do I have to? Can't we just say no? When Mr. Lovely came in and made a presentation to the Warrant Committee, he suggested that the building was going to be built somewhere in the vicinity of the tennis courts. I later had a conversation with a member of the school committee who said that that wasn't the original place that it was supposed to be built, and therefore he wasn't sure where things were. I then spoke with a member of the park commissioners who said they were going to discuss it after their election, and they had a new member. Hearing nothing from anybody, yesterday before the meeting, the Warrant Committee recommended a no vote because we had no specifics. Mr. Lovely came in yesterday and asked if the Warrant Committee would hear the combined group on the subject, and we did that tonight before this meeting. Basically, what we're being asked is to approve the Board of Park Commissioners' ability to build a building anywhere that they want, or any number of buildings, on land that they own. The Warrant Committee felt that that was not something that we would like to do. We suggested we absolutely support and admire the work that the volunteers are doing, because we're talking about building buildings here at no cost to the town, and we would love to see that happen. But we felt maintenance, a lot of other issues had to be clearly spelled out. We also felt that there needed to be...
Or if not, tomorrow evening, whatever is appropriate.
All right, that's a party motion, but I'm not going to take it right now because I have a pending motion, and I would want to find from Bonnie Joyce Halsey, that essentially was your motion. If you withdraw your motion, I'll move to lay this on the table, and then, Mr. Lovely, would you inform Bonnie Joyce Halsey as to what you're going to draft, which encompasses the spirit of her motion? So I'll take that as a withdrawal of the motion.
Yes.
There's a motion to lay this on the table to later in the meeting. Is that seconded? All those in favor of laying Article 39 on the table till later in this meeting, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Article 39 is on the table. Article 40 is to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for the completion of the facilities at the lower field at Guile Road, including but not limited to baseball, soccer, field hockey, and...
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Renate Voigt, Precinct 2. Can I just make one comment on the previous article?
You may.
Mr. Ramers, I want to tell you that you're my son's soccer coach, and my son is probably one of the kids you sent into the woods. And I'm very much in favor of this article, but I think it's setting a dangerous precedence to be forming articles on town meeting floor. We have a lot of articles to discuss, and from now on, I would really like to have the work be done ahead of time so that we can efficiently act on these articles. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Article 40 is to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for the completion of the facilities at the lower field at Guile Road, including but not limited to baseball, soccer, field hockey, and/or other recreational facilities, fencing, security lighting, seating, water fountains, wells, sprinkler systems, topsoil, grading and seeding and/or sodding, and to act on anything relating thereto. See what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate and to determine how such appropriation shall be raised, whether by taxation, by appropriation or transfer of available funds or other money, by borrowing or otherwise, and if by borrowing to authorize the issuance of obligations of the town, therefore, under any applicable provision of law and in connection with the projects described above, see if the town will authorize the Outdoor Recreational Facilities Committee appointed under Article 38 of the town meeting of March 12, 1977, to engage landscape architects and other professional service providers as the committee shall determine to let a contract for said project or any part thereof, and to supervise the carrying out of said projects and to act on anything relating thereto. The moderator recognizes Mary Fitzgerald for the purpose of obtaining the recommendation of the warrant committee.
I hesitate to give a recommendation. The last we heard from Mr. Lovely is the comment in the warrant. They were waiting for information on the impact of wetlands on the project. Not having heard anything to this point in time to the contrary or any change in that, the warrant committee is recommending a no vote cautiously.
Is there any further discussion? All right, if you're, we're moving to the article, and if you're voting with the warrant committee, you're voting no. All those in favor of the article say aye. Those opposed say no. No. The article is defeated. Article 41 is to see if the town will vote pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2 of the Massachusetts General Laws to authorize the school department to expend a sum of money not to exceed $60,000 in the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1996, for the purpose of the operation of the preschool program for regular education students in the Milton Public Schools from the revolving account established by vote of the 1994 annual town meeting under Article 26 and the 1995 annual town meeting under Article 39, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town vote yes. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the warrant committee is adopted. Article 42 is to see if the town will vote pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2 of the Massachusetts General Laws to authorize the school department to expend a sum of money not to exceed $40,000 in the fiscal year beginning July 1, 1996, for the purpose of maintenance and repair of school facilities from the revolving fund established by vote of the 1993 annual town meeting under Article 19, 1994 annual town meeting under Article 25, and the 1995 annual town meeting under Article 38 for fees received from the rental of school facilities and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the warrant committee is the town vote yes. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the warrant committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the warrant committee is adopted. Article 43 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for the support of schools for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 1996, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the warrant committee is that the town appropriate the amount shown in the following tabulation under the heading recommended. That total is $18,323,981. We recognize Mary Fitzgerald for the purpose of making an amendment.
There is an amendment to Article 43. Under the regular education line, the number is going to change from $14,384,148 to $14,434,148. The total changes from $18,323,981 to $18,373,981. This is an addition of $50,000, and there needs some language also to go after the total because we're taking some of the money from an existing 95 budget. So the following language will be added after the total. And to meet said appropriation, the sum of $20,000 shall be transferred from the unexpended appropriation available under Article 22 of the 1995 Annual Town Meeting, Department of Public Works, Solid Waste Management, Curbside Recycling, and the balance shall be raised from the tax levy. So $20,000 is coming from an existing budget because the curbside recycling contract that was eventually negotiated was less than we had put into the budget. And if you remember, we made a $30,000 change in the existing 1997 DPW budget because the Board of Selectmen got a better price on taking the leaves out of town. So the combination of that 30 and this 20 comes to the $50,000, which we are adding to the school budget.
Thank you, Mary. Jeff, do you want to do, let's get this person first.
Mr. Moderator, Tim Kaler, Precinct 2. I have a question, and then I'd like to make a statement. First, my question is, I'd like to read from page 10 of the warrant, second paragraph down, and request an explanation from the school committee and/or the warrant committee. From page 10, the warrant committee would like to make the town meeting members aware of what I hope is a minor problem with both the accuracy and the timeliness of responses from the schools to questions raised by the warrant committee as they try to understand the school budget. I have had 2 meetings with members of the administration and school committee with regard to these issues. It is my sincere hope that these problems will be resolved in time to have a much smoother process next year. I regret raising this issue in the warrant, but since the warrant committee members are representatives of the town meeting, I feel the members had to be informed. Could someone from either the school committee or the warrant committee expound upon this statement?
Thank you very much.
I also have a statement after.
Do you want to make a statement afterwards, or do you want to make it now?
I'd like to make it after.
All right, then be seated, and I'll recognize you again. I'm going to recognize the chairman of the school committee, but I'm also going to help answer the question. Needless to say, there has to be credibility with the warrant committee in terms of its interface with this body, and the school committee has to have credibility in town. And I've spoken to and discussed the problems that were perceived this year with respect to information, and this is a problem that I'd like to assure town meeting members, and the one that just spoke, is a problem that I believe is the moderator and the one that appoints the warrant committee, is a problem of a temporary nature, and it's one that the parties are going to work diligently to solve. I am assured by Mr. Cruikshank, the chairman of the warrant committee, of the school committee, that he certainly understands that the warrant committee needs timely and accurate information, and the warrant committee understands that fully that while they can make requests, they have to sometimes be patient in terms of getting the information. The school budget, for many of you who have served on the warrant committee, is a very large budget, and there are sometimes difficulty. But I, as your moderator, am satisfied that, as Mary Fitzgerald put it, that this is a minor problem, and that the parties for next year are going to address that and be sure that there's the proper flow of information so that both committees can do their job. And I'll recognize Mr. Cruikshank, who can editorialize on my editorial.
Only to a minimal extent, Mr. Moderator. I would just like to assure the town meeting that we share the conviction of the warrant committee that the flow of information is crucial to this process. Our credibility and the warrant committee's credibility underpins this whole process. We are impressed at the degree to which the warrant committee tried this year to really get its arms around our budget. Those of you who have tried know how hard it is. You have to become a specialist in special education, in building maintenance, in fuel oil, in lavatory repairs. It is definitely true that we were tardy in responding to some questions. It is our intention to do better next year, and we are confident that we will work closely with the warrant committee in that effort. I think the moderator and the chairman of the warrant committee and myself at this moment don't perceive much advantage to going backward over details of our back and forth. We're talking about 5 months of very detailed contacts, and so I would respectfully ask the town meeting to help us look forward, and I'd like to make a few comments in general which are in a very different spirit, and I will try to make an abrupt transition to that spirit. But I was going to start my comments by thanking the warrant committee for working so hard. They have tried, in the last 3 years that I've been aware of, they've tried 3 different structures to get a great handle on our budget, and I think we're still trying. But they're doing a great job, and I support them fully, and so does my committee. I also wanted to thank Ann Martinson for 3 years of hard work on our committee. This is a difficult job. I think the good news for the town is that we will no longer monopolize her time, and she'll be able to work on lots of good things for the town. Just two messages I want to convey tonight, and they're closely related. The first is that the school committee absolutely appreciates the generosity of the citizens, the voters of this town, and all the people who are in the middle of this process in funding the schools to the extent that you have. I think as a result of that funding, great things are happening in our schools. I hope many of you took the tour of the science facility. If you haven't, and you find yourself in Milton in the middle of the day, please go to the high school central office and ask to be taken down there. It really is a reaffirming experience to see what these dollars go for. We do get asked that question, and this is one good answer. This is where they go. Another good answer is there are 2 new computer labs in the high school, which were also made possible through the generosity of the voters. And I'm happy to report that finally graduating seniors will have training in the vital computer skills that they need to succeed in the world today. We are in the high school in the first year of a new interactive math program, which is in the spirit of interdisciplinary education, which is certainly important in this time when discipline boundaries are evaporating. And in this school, as elsewhere, the benefits of the capital override, to which we are assigned $1.3 million, it's absolutely wonderful what this will do for our schools. These are unglamorous and unsexy things to report on, and most of them you'll never see. They are things like basements and heatilators, which I still don't know what they are, lavatories, things of that kind. These are crucial improvements.
Talking to the mic.
Sorry. I'm sorry, the microphone is feeding back for some reason. See if I can adjust it. Elsewhere at the middle school, I'll move along. I think most of you have an experience at that school recently, have perceived a dramatic transformation. We have new leadership, we have new and newly revitalized teachers, we have new programs, we're working in teams and clusters. Several years ago, the committee promised the town that as that population at school grew, that we would not allow kids to get lost in the shuffle, and I think we've succeeded in that regard. Again, I hope if you have the time, you'll go see that facility. There are new classrooms being built in that building to accommodate the bulge, and we're working our hardest to help our middle school kids succeed. At the elementary level, we are engaged in a large experiment to raise the bar, to raise the ceiling and raise the floor in the conviction that all children in our care can learn more and will learn more. The 1995 California Achievement Test results came in recently. In 13 out of 18 categories, Milton's 3rd and 5th graders ranked at the 75th percentile or better nationally, and that translates into our average 3rd grader is computing at a 5th grade level and reading at a 6th grade level. That's the average. So this, I think, and we think, is cause for satisfaction and optimism, but not complacency. I came across an Irish proverb today that said, better to be quarreling than lonesome. And those of you who have read the papers, I don't read the papers anymore, but those of you who have may have seen us in the papers. Let me speak indirectly to that point. We recently received a letter from the president of the Collicott PTO, Donna Robertson. I have her permission to read this letter. And it is, I think, sorry, you still can't hear me. I'll try and speak louder. Sorry. I won't start over, though. I set you up for that, right? Dear Dr. O'Neill, this letter came on March 4th. Now I can't see it. It seems that recently there has been more negative publicity about our school system than positive. Certainly, there are many challenges facing our schools, but let's not lose sight of the fact that many positive events happen almost daily in our schools. Specifically, I would like to publicly acknowledge Mrs. Janet Sheehan, a grade 3 teacher at Collycott Elementary School. Mrs. Sheehan is one of the best things to happen to Collycott in a long time. Her pleasant personality, her gentle way of dealing with children, her enthusiasm that lights a fire under all her students, all of these things add up to a wonderful teacher and a person who truly enjoys and embraces the teaching profession. My daughter Kristen was lucky enough to have Mrs. Sheehan last year for above-level 4th grade math class. Kristen approached 4th grade with some fear and trembling as she was being moved up from on-level math to above-level math. Her confidence in her ability to succeed was somewhat shaky. Mrs. Sheehan recognized what was happening immediately and worked on making Kristen believe in herself. Mrs. Sheehan paid close attention to Kristen and made sure she didn't get lost along the way. She worked on Kristen's self-confidence in a number of ways, including many one-on-one conversations. These conversations were geared toward showing Kristen that she could do the work and that she truly belonged in this math class. Needless to say, this story has a happy ending. Kristen is sailing through above-level 5th grade math and looks forward to letting Mrs. Sheehan know how well she did on her latest test. Kristen no longer seems intimidated by her math homework and works quite independently on all assignments. I quote this letter because I think this is really what the school committee is about, and I can assure the town that every member of the school committee, including our newest member who's been here for a week, is committed to thousands of these small successes regularly. Thank you for your help, and I ask for your support of our budget.
Max Horvath, Precinct 1. Could I ask, Mr. Moderator, what is, through the Warrant Committee, the increase of $50,000 or so, why is that increase?
The 50,000 that they increased?
Under the regular education? There's an additional amount that was added to that budget item, and I was wondering what that additional amount is for.
Okay. Is that,
specifically?
Okay, there are other questions because just soon get them all at once.
No, that's it.
That's it? Okay. Mary Fitzgerald, you recognize that the 50,000 was added for what purpose?
The 50,000 addition was for the IMP teacher at the high school, and then an additional $20,000 to be used in a new phenomenon to me. When I was on the school committee, we only had whole teachers. You either had a teacher or you didn't have one. But today, we have 2/5 of a teacher and 1/5 of a teacher and 1/4 of a teacher. So to the extent that they can buy pieces of teachers with the $20,000, that was an addition.
Yes, sir. Oh, this gentleman next, and then you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tim Kaler, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 2. What I'd like to do is make a brief statement and then make a motion. To start, I'd like to thank the superintendent of schools and the school committee for their time and efforts over the past year. Like all town positions, there is a substantial commitment of time which they should be commended for giving. But I'm not pleased at all with all of their efforts, and I speak now specifically because I feel uneasy about this year's school budget, especially given last year's $1.13 million operating override. This year's budget increases by 4.47%, or $783,912. Now, why is this increase there? We are told in the warrant comments that number one, enrollment in the schools. Last year, I'm reading directly from the warrant comments in summary, last year we were told new students would be 170. But the warrant tells us that the actual number was 135, which declined to 100 by March of 1996. Now this year, they expect an additional 44 new students. Now maybe not there'll be 44. But irregardless, the 100 students plus the 44 expected new students this year equals 144, which is considerably less than the 170 budgeted for last year. In addition to that, special education mandate increases and the unfavorable state aid formula. Now these are some of the reasons, these are actually the same reasons given last year when the school committee and the superintendent of the schools requested the $1.13 million operating override, which I might say passed narrowly without any organized opposition. This 1.13 override is a permanent fixture in the school budget, which means it increases by 2.5% every year. It's permanently in the budget. It's not a one-time occurrence. And now this year, the school committee and the superintendent are asking for an additional 4.47% increase, or additional funds of $783,000. Now my concerns, and the concerns of my neighbors in Precinct 2, are where does it end? When will it end? And does this budget contain some type of a hidden Prop 2.5 override? Now, one school committee member has said on the record at a public forum that our job on the school committee is to request and secure as much money for the schools and then let the chips fall where they may at town meeting. Now, that's a noble approach. Similar to selling a car, I might say. Hypothetically, I'm selling my car for $25,000, but when I'm offered $21,500, I say, sure, I'll take that. I think I got a pretty good deal, because I was only expecting to get $20,000 for it. Now, is this approach to budgeting responsible? Or would a better approach be to have a school budget done within the limits of a 2.5% increase, and then have the school committee make a case for additional funds at town meeting? The question arises, is the school committee and the superintendent of schools acting responsibly on behalf of the taxpayer? At this time, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion and then immediately speak to that motion.
And what's your motion?
On page 48 of the warrant, I'd like to make a motion to change under the regular education fiscal year 97. This figure's been changed once by the warrant committee at this meeting, so in its present form, the figure reads $14,434,148. I'd like to change that figure to $14,038,737. This would also change the fiscal year 97 total budget number from the $18 million that was changed earlier in the meeting to $17,978,570.
Hang on.
This change would represent a 2.5% budget increase over last year. A total increase.
All right, you give me your entire motion? Sir?
Yes.
Okay, now let me just see if it's seconded before I get you to see. Is there a second to the motion? Second. It's been moved and seconded. You are recognized to speak to the motion. Everybody understand the motion? The motion is to change the regular education line from $14,434,148 to $14,038,737, which changes the total from $18,373,981 to $17,978,570. This is a motion to amend the recommendation of the warrant committee. It's been seconded. We will hear debate, and you are recognized to speak to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This change would represent a 2.5% budget increase over last year, a total of $438,501 increase. This is a significant increase. It would cut from the budget 1.97%, or $360,982. The superintendent of schools, along with the school committee, should be asked which areas should be cut. These funds could go to a reserve account for another future need of the town. We must control spending as a town, and we as town meeting members must oversee our budgets and spending habits. And one final point, many residents feel that spending for the schools is worth every penny. Education is the pathway to success, and money should never be an obstacle. And I agree, but to a point. More importantly, responsible budgeting for education and proper management of all of our school programs is essential as a means or a pathway to our success as a community. Thank you.
Do you wish to speak to the pending motion? Okay, you're recognized.
Mr. Moderator, Chris Huban from Precinct 4. I'd like to address in the comments section number 3, unfavorable aid formula. It reads that studies have shown that Milton is one of the 3 or 4 Massachusetts communities least fairly treated by the aid formula in the Education Reform Act. Most recently, Milton has been partitioned up so that we are now represented by 3 state representatives. Tom Finneran, who is now Speaker of the House, Joe Manning, who I believe is on the Ways and Means Committee, and Ms. Hicks. These are 3 powerful guns that can be used to help Milton in this situation. My question is two-part. One, what progress has been made by said town officials to get changes in this act? And 2, will we see a positive impact in this year's school budget?
Okay, I'm going to entertain at some point if somebody wants to answer that, but I need to get more directed debate on the pending motion, and I'm going to recognize Mr. Cruikshank, Chairman of the School Committee.
I don't know where to start with a motion to cut $400,000 out of a budget which we start out by saying is adequate but not overdone. The superintendent's recommendation was already cut by, I think, $717,000. The warrant committee cut that remaining sum, our budget, by an additional $213,000. We've recently had a reinstatement of $50,000, for which we're supremely grateful. I will ask the superintendent to speak to, on the spot, what the potential consequences of $400,000 out of our school budget might mean. I don't know if the warrant committee wants to weigh in on that issue as well. I hope they do. I think Mary would like to talk next. Let me respond, though, because I think I may have been the person that Mr. Kaler was quoting, although Mr. Kaler wasn't in the room. I think his father was, if it's a family relationship. What I said in that context was not get all the money and let the chips fall where they may. What I said in a philosophical vein, which I think Mr. Kaler Sr. understood, and we continued to have a discussion afterwards on that point, was you can make the case, and I do try to make the case, that my job as a school committee member is to describe the kind of education that this town ought to be providing. and that we have the responsibility to put a price tag on that vision, and then we put that vision into our process, and we have a very good process. Sometimes that process takes us to the town, and sometimes it doesn't. This year it does not. In direct answer to, I think, an implied question of Mr. Kaler's, this budget does not have built into it a hidden 2.5 override. The funds that are secured through overrides are in fact permanently in the town budget, but we, of course, have to fight for our share every year, and I will cede to whoever wants to speak next.
Moderator recognizes Mary Fitzgerald.
I think, Mr. Kaler, it's important to know that unlike all the rest of the budgets which we have seen, the set-aside for raises is included in this number for the school budget. When we look at police and fire and all of the other budgets that we have approved, then we have to look to a separate article of $481,000, I believe, something roughly like that, and another amount in the Personnel Board article to find the set-aside for raises for all the rest of the town. But in this school budget, the set-aside for raises, which is almost 2%, is already built in. So I did this math prior to the addition of the $50,000, but I'm sure it's pretty close. If you were to exclude the set-aside, the school budget increase is about 3%. And I think that certainly makes it sound more reasonable when you consider that some of the other police budget, I think, went up about 1.9%, almost 2%. If you look at the school budget, and believe me, we looked at the school budget, just their first page is almost a $500,000 increase, and that's simply taking everything they do today and add to it increased cost if it's materials, or if it's people, add to it steps and lane changes, and then add in the set-aside for raises. So the remaining amount above about $500,000 was gone over with a fine-tooth comb, and the Warrant Committee feels very strongly that it's needed. So the Warrant Committee therefore recommends a no vote on the amendment to the article.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Mary. Superintendent of Schools, Mary O'Neill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, everyone. What would happen if this amendment were to pass? And why is the school budget a large school budget? Well, if we look over the past 10 years, we've had an increase in student enrollment of about 40%. And that's very healthy for a public school system in any town or any community, and when our property values are so closely tied to our educational system. A realtor approached me at the beginning of this meeting and said, I love the new science wing. Will you do a guided tour for the realtors in town so they can use this as a selling point? And we're happy to do that. But over that same 10-year period, we saw only a 9% increase in faculty. What has that done to our class size? Class size is very, very healthy. Those of you who have school-age children in our system know how healthy the class size is. In fact, if we look at our elementary classes, we have approximately 85 classes. That's kindergarten through grade 5. Of those 85 classes, 35 of them are 25 or over. That's a pretty large class size, or a very healthy class size. And we work very hard to meet the needs of every single child, but that's a large class size if that's your youngster. Some of the classes are at 31 and 32. Only a handful of those classes, under 20, are below a class size of 20, which some communities take as their cap. We also, if we look at what the Education Reform Act is recommending in terms of per pupil expenditure for textbooks, for materials, for supplies, they're recommending that we spend $400 per pupil at the secondary level, that's middle and high school, and $250 at the elementary level. And we fall significantly below that, in the $100 ranges. And if we add in the new technology, we get a little closer, but as we say to the Warrant Committee, we're working toward trying to make progress toward our goal and do it bit by bit and slowly. Milton I don't think there's anybody in this auditorium or anybody who's listening tonight who considers Milton less than average or below average in any aspect of this town. We're all very proud to live in this town. Those of us who work here are proud to work here in this town. But if you look at the average per pupil expenditure for the Milton Public Schools, it is below the statewide average. There are 40 cities and towns to which Milton has been comparing itself over the past 20 years. For most of those 20 years, Milton was in the top 50% in school spending. For the last year for which figures are available, we have dropped to 35th out of 40. So we're now in the bottom, the very bottom percentiles in terms of spending on education. We really need your support. We have worked hard with the Warrant Committee. We have worked hard with the School Committee. We have tried to come to you with a very fiscally responsible budget. We would not like to see this amendment passed. It would mean significantly larger class sizes. It would mean the reduction and/or the elimination of some programs. And we've worked very hard to build what's an excellent school system. And you tell us our school system is excellent, and people are stopping us all the time for the improvements that we're making, and we want to be able to continue to deliver on our promise to you, and that is outstanding educational opportunities for your youngsters. I urge a no vote on the amendment.
You're recognized.
Mr. Moderator, Tim Kaler, Precinct 2. One wish is that each year with the school budget, if the superintendent, along with the school committee, could have a budget that's within 2.5% increase from the prior year, and then come to town meeting and request any additional funds that they might need. That's one suggestion, and it's one reason for this motion. Thank you.
Mr. McKettrick.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Joe McKettrick from Precinct 1, and I had a question for the superintendent of schools or for the chairman of the school committee. And my question is, if the amendment were to pass, would the town be in compliance with the mandatory minimum of the Education Reform Act for fiscal 1997? I'd like to ask for an answer to that question if I could.
Mary Fitzgerald is recognized for the purposes of answering that question.
Yes, Joe, would still be in compliance if the amendment were to pass, but that doesn't mean we should do it. In answer to the gentleman who asked the question about what are we doing to try and increase our percentage of state aid, I think I can say that members of the Warrant Committee, members of the School Committee, members of the Board of Selectmen have all met with some of our legislatures, with Ms. Hicks, who is the chairman of education, and we are working diligently to try and increase the amount of aid that the town of Milton gets.
Further discussion on the motion? Yes,
Jeff Wilkinson, Precinct 11.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Many of us are parents here, and we've heard from officials for the school committee and the Warrant Committee, and I want to speak as a parent briefly against the amendment. My son is one of many children in town that is in one of those classes with more than 25 students. He's getting an outstanding education, but I wish his class size was smaller. I don't want his class size or any other child's class size any bigger than it is. I think we would all agree with the maker of the motion that we need responsible management of the schools. It's my impression that we have responsible, outstanding management of the schools. We clearly have outstanding oversight of the schools by the Warrant Committee. We've seen the level of scrutiny devoted by the committee to all the budgets. And when the chair of the Warrant Committee speaks as she has, I'm confident that this is a lean and mean school budget, and I wish we were voting for a higher school budget, and I urge a no vote on this amendment.
Mr. Moderator, Chris Huban, Precinct 4. My question was twofold. What progress has been made? It states here that you're attempting to persuade legislatures, so it's already written. But what progress has been made to change this act by town officials And will we see a positive impact in this year's school budget?
Can you address that, Mary Fitzgerald? Is there any progress in terms of changing the
Progress with
unfavorable
the,
aid formula or not?
progress with the state legislature, I think, doesn't happen in days or weeks or sometimes even months. I think if you want greater detail, Alan McDonald, who's kind of been leading the dog and pony show that goes around trying to convince people that the act is unfair, could give you more details. But if I were to give a guess, no, I don't think we will see any additional money this year to impact this budget. That doesn't mean it won't happen, but the process is very, very long, and we have to convince people in giving us more money, we have to make sure that we don't hurt other communities, because if that were to be the plan, I don't think it would stand much of a chance of passing. So it's very, very delicate. It's going to take a long time. It's certainly worth the effort, regardless what, if we don't get $2 million, whatever we get is certainly going to be benefit to the town. I don't think we can rush it. I think we have to go at the pace at which we are going, and hopefully we will achieve good results.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, I don't want to hold up the vote. Will I be able to ask the school committee questions after this vote is taken?
Yes, you will.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the pending motion to amend? Mr. Desmond. I recognize Mr. Desmond. I'll get you next, Mr. Manning.
I just wanted to mention, is there any progress being made? Last year, after town meeting, State Representative M. Joseph Manning and State Senator Paul White were able to increase the state allotment that we have, $25 per student, to $75 per student for the students of Milton. That meant an increase to the town's budget, increase in state revenue of $225,000. Some $225,000 went back to the town, not directly to the schools, but it was because of the schools and our state representative and state senators' work. We're working with them to get more.
Mr. Manning.
Joe Manning, Precinct 7, State Representative of the 7th Norfolk District. In answer to the question regarding the status of the study of the present Education Reform Act, let me just assure he and the members of the town meeting that we have been blessed with the cooperative spirit that the legislative delegation representing this town and the districts have had from your elected officials, namely your Board of Selectmen, your school committee, and others who have been impacted an educational spending figure of $5,500 per child in 351 cities and towns. Milton, under the 36 elements that go into the formula that distribute funds and other criteria under this new Reform Act, is evidently, according to some of the officials, feel that we are not getting a fair share. Because of the meetings that have been held, both here in Milton and at the State House, between the Committee on Educational Chairman, Ms. Hicks, who serves this community, the chairman of the Warrant Committee, the Ways and Means Committee, and now the Speaker of the House, Mr. Finneran, and myself, as well as our state senator, we now have understudy, because of this effort, by the Committee on Education, the entire distributional formula of monies that are being distributed. Whether it'll happen before this legislative session completes its business on 31 July of this year is unknown. I have no idea. I cannot answer for the Committee on Education. But it is being diligently under scrutiny by the committee, and hopefully, if we don't see any change action this year, I hope to have some favorable report for the fiscal '97 year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Does anyone else wish to address? Okay, we're going to be voting on the motion to amend, which is a motion to reduce the regular education to $14,038,737, which brings the total down to $17,978,570. All those in favor of the motion to amend, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Okay, the motion is defeated. We're now back on the basic recommendation of the Warrant Committee. Does anyone want to address that? And there was one gentleman that said he did, no? Okay, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Joseph Walsh, Precinct 2. I would like to ask the school committee a couple of questions. On Sunday mornings, for quite some time now, this auditorium is used as a house of worship by a religious group, and as I understand it, one night a week the classrooms are used for religious education. My question to the school committee, whoever wants to answer it, how much money is this religious group paying for the use of the high school in the auditorium? I would like to also know the name of this particular denomination and how long do you anticipate that this will continue? Thank you.
Is there anyone from the school committee that can answer that question? Mr. Cruikshank?
The answer is, in a full year, we take in about $15,000 for the rental of this room to that church, the Church of Christ. That money goes into a revolving fund, which is used to fix the seats and the lights and the electrical system in this room, I believe. And the new carpeting that your feet is on.
Any other questions or discussions on the article?
Is there any...
You're recognized.
Yes. Is there any place in the warrant or the annual report where this money is shown, or how is it handled, and how does the school committee account for it?
All right, it's obviously not in the warrant, right?
What's
We all
that?
know that, so that's a rhetorical question. And the second question was what?
My first question, he gave me the name of the denomination that was used in the hall here.
That was the Church of Christ.
And I was just, he answered the second question about the amount of money that was, the income that was coming in. And my third question was, will this continue?
All right, will this continue? Okay. Mr. Cruikshank, are we intending to continue to rent to this particular tenant?
The money doesn't show up called out specifically in the way that I think the question asks for, but we've just passed Article 42, which is a revolving fund, into which this money is deposited, out of which the money is spent on the specified purposes that I referred to earlier. In my personal estimation, I think the school committee shares it with me, this tenant has been a model tenant. They're not disruptive or destructive of the facility. They generate very much welcome income. We had electrical problems in this room that were fixed as a result of this income. I may be, this is correct, Mr. Sheehan, thank you. They are model tenants, and no complaints have reached my ears. So absent evidence to the contrary, I would say yes, they would continue.
What is the name of the organization?
It's the Church of Christ. That's already been announced. I guess the answer to the question is yes, we intend to rent. Diane Agostino, you're
Sorry,
recognized.
Mr. Moderator?
Wait a minute.
One more detail in answer to your question. Mr. Neely of the Selectmen points out that on page 255 of your annual report, there's a line for rental revolving. That's where this money goes in and comes out of. Thank you, Rick.
Diane Agostino.
Diane Agostino, Precinct 8. This question's for the superintendent of schools. With the Education Reform Act, is there any requirement that reviews performance? And specifically, maybe, I've seen some other towns, when they go to town meeting with a budget, have proclaimed how their MEP test results have improved. And I know the state's spending a lot of money on those MEP test results, which we've seen recently in Boston Magazine. Could you address those two questions?
I didn't get the two questions.
The first one, does the education reform mandate review performance, and is the MEP test result the performance?
Mandate review performance?
Performance of the students.
Mandate review of performance of the students, okay. Second question?
And also, we see when towns are putting forth their town budget for the schools, they often discuss how their MEP test results have improved, which was recently seen in Boston Magazine. I'd like the superintendent's report on that. Thank you.
Superintendent is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. If I understand your questions correctly, Diane, I'll try to answer them as directly as I can. The Ed Reform Act does address performance of professional staff, and in fact, we will be holding a public hearing on teacher performance standards and administrative performance standards, but I don't believe it directly addresses student performance standards, except for the fact that our community, as well as many other communities, are trying to raise both the floor and the ceiling of achievement. And despite the amount of money that we're spending on education, and we're grateful for every dollar that we get, we are producing youngsters who are doing exceptionally well. Today I was notified that two of our students at the high school, a freshman and a sophomore, both got perfect scores on an international Latin exam. And that distinction was achieved by only 900 students around the world out of almost 100,000 students who took that particular test. So we're very proud of those students, and we're proud of how well our youngsters do. The MEP test is the Mass Educational Assessment test, and it is given in a number of different grades. And at this point, it is not matched student to student, and we continue to work to improve on those tests, and a lot of our curriculum innovations, a lot of the writing across the curriculum that we're doing, a lot of the critical and creative thinking and problem solving that we're interjecting into our curriculum and making an integral part of it is to address the MEP, which is actually testing youngsters in a new way of learning, and that's what we're trying to teach within our school system.
Any other discussion? All right. Those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the Warrant Committee is adopted. Article 44 is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate, transfer from available funds, or otherwise provide to supplement the appropriation for support of the Blue Hills Regional Vocational School for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 1995, under Article 31 of the 1995 Annual Town Meeting, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the sum of $2,386 be appropriated for the purposes set forth in this article. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the Warrant Committee is adopted. Article 45, to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for the support of the Blue Hills Regional Vocational School for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 1996, and to act on anything relating thereto. The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the sum of $318,111 be appropriated for the purposes set forth in this article. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation of the Warrant Committee say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the recommendation of the Warrant Committee is carried. Article 46, see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 1, Section 6 of the general bylaws as follows. Make the first paragraph subsection A to add a new subsection B, which reads, whoever violates any provision of these bylaws or any rule or regulation of any municipal office or board or department, violation of which is subject to a specific penalty, may be penalized by a non-criminal disposition as provided in Chapter 41, Section 21D of the Massachusetts General Laws. The Board of Selectmen and the police officers of the town of Milton shall in all cases be enforcing persons for provisions of this section. In addition, the fire chief or his designee, the building inspector or his designee, the health agent or his designee, and such other officials as the Board of Selectmen may designate from time to time shall have the authority to enforce violations of bylaws, rules, or regulations within their respective jurisdiction. If more than one person has jurisdiction in a particular case, each person shall have enforcing authority within that jurisdiction. Each violation of a bylaw, rule, or regulation shall be punished by a fine not to exceed $300 for each offense. Each day that such violation continues shall be a separate offense. The recommendation of the Warrant Committee is that the town vote yes. Mr. Whiteside.
Alexander Whiteside, Precinct 9. I guess the problem I have with this is the $300 a day. Anyone who has an unleashed dog, I mean, if you get a continuing violation, you're going to be talking thousands and thousands of dollars. When you give the, well, no, you are. When you give the fire chief or his designee, the building inspector or his designee, the health agent or his designee, or anyone else that the Board of Selectmen designate, the power to bring complaints which can result in a fine of this magnitude, I think you're creating a monster which should be brought to the attention of the town meeting. Part of the problem is, of course, the statute. It says that you can only impose a fine of $300 for a offense of a bylaw, for the breach of a bylaw. And then it goes on to say, but you can say that every day it occurs, it's a new offense. The problem you have is that before these things get to court, you are going to be facing 30, 60, 90 days, and the amount of money that people are potentially liable for is going to be far in excess of what most people would consider a reasonable sum for supposed violation of a bylaw. I think that a lot of people, when confronted by a town official, are going to say, I've got to comply because the potential penalty if I don't do whatever they say is so great that I can't afford it. So I would strongly suggest that this article be defeated and that we try and craft a reasonable penalty for violation of the bylaw.
Ms. Agostino?
Diane Agostino, Precinct 8. The last time I saw a change like this, it had to do with the wetlands, and we know how quickly the $300 per day added up at 2 Granite Place. So what I'd like to know with regards to this one is, did they compare it to other towns? I mean, it doesn't say anything here in that other towns went from $20 to $300, and why such a large jump? And if they can't substantiate that, I also agree with Mr. Whiteside.
Mr. Mullen?
Mr. Moderator, Peter Mullen, Precinct 3. Other than changing the amount of the fine, does this amendment change in any way the procedure, and who would be the deciding authority as to whether or not there's a violation of any bylaw or rule of the town?
Your question is, who is the deciding authority as to whether there's a violator?
Yes.
Is that all your questions?
I don't know until I know the answer.
Okay. You may stand there and I may recognize you for a follow-up question. Mr. Flynn, can you address that?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, 2 points. The first is that in 1988, town meeting amended the general bylaws, which is the subject of this article, to increase the fine from $20 to each offense to $300 for each offense. So this article would not change the amount of the fine. It would make it a non-criminal disposition if there is a violation of a town bylaw or regulation. Last year at town meeting, a similar article was adopted on the zoning bylaw side. This is the non-zoning or the general bylaw component. The determination of whether there has been a violation of a bylaw or regulation would be up to the department or officer under whose jurisdiction the bylaw or regulation exists, for example, the Board of Health or the police chief, etc. So that is why the bylaw is worded that way. I'm sorry, that is why the warrant article is worded that way, and that is based upon the wording of the enabling statute.
Mr. Mullen, you're recognized.
Thank you. I guess I'm not familiar with the procedure, but assuming that the citizen of the town disputes that they're in violation of the provision that the member of the board or the officer of the town indicates is a violation, is there any appeal? Is there any review of the decision by the town official?
And Mr. Flynn?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, these things are not, I'm sorry, these alleged violations are not self-enforcing. And if a citizen disagreed with a determination by a town official or board, and if the town official did not agree, the ultimate resolution of this would be in the local district court, and the citizen would be entitled to a hearing. The difference is that if this were adopted, that hearing would not be a criminal proceeding. And if the result were to uphold the determination of the town official, the adjudication would not be guilty in the sense of a criminal. It would just be an adjudication of the violation of the bylaw or regulation. But the ultimate decision would rest with the local district court. And that is the avenue of appeal that a citizen would have if that citizen disagreed with the notice or determination of the town. In addition to the administrative remedy, certainly, of discussing it, but the ultimate final resolution of this would be in court. Yes, but any citizen is certainly free to talk to that official to argue the case, and certainly possible that upon a proper showing, maybe there'd be a determination there was no violation, and the process would end at that point.
Okay. Mr. Mellon, do you wish to address the article?
Yes, I had another question with regard to the last sentence that says, if more than one person has jurisdiction in a particular case, each person shall have enforcing authority within that jurisdiction. I guess the thought that occurred to me as I read that is whether or not every police officer would have authority to find a citizen to be in violation of any town bylaw which is applicable to the police department, even if it was contrary to the view of the chief with regard to that matter.
It reads the fire chief for his designee, Mr. Mellon.
Well, it also says all police officers of the town.
Oh. That's correct. Mr. Flynn, can we get further light cast on the meaning of the last sentence of the first paragraph? What it means to have overlapping jurisdiction?
No, Mr. Moderator, the intent of that provision is if there are different violations by a person that involve more than one jurisdiction, for example, health or police, then that's why each department or officer has jurisdiction. If there is more than one police officer involved, for example, it would depend upon the nature of the offense, but it doesn't mean that there's going to be a double whammy or an overlap. If there happen to be 3 or 4 violations witnessed by different police officers, then yes, the police officer has the right to cite that person. But it does not mean that if there's one violation witnessed by 6 police officers, that there are going to be 6 citations and a possibility of 6 adjudications. It's limited to the offense, but there's a possibility that an offense or an alleged offense could involve more than one set of regulations or one set of bylaw. And if that's the case, then this bylaw doesn't limit the potential for enforcement.
I guess...
Mr. Mellon, you're recognized.
Thank you. My question, I guess, is that it seems the police department is different than the other departments referred to in this proposed amendment. In the other references, it refers to the head of the department or the head's designee as the enforcing authority. But with regard to the police department, it says all the police officers in the town have authority to enforce all, apparently, bylaws for which the police department has authority. And I guess it seems to me that it diminishes the control that the chief has with regard to the enforcement of any bylaws applicable to the police department, and I'm wondering why this distinction is made.
All right. Well, I assume that's a comment.
That's a question.
All right. Now, do you have any more questions? I mean, because your questions aren't really conditional on getting an answer. Now, for order, I'd like to get all your questions so I can get them all answered without having Mr. Flynn bopping up and down. Are there any other questions that you have?
I guess I'm still not clear as to what happens now when some official of the town believes that there's been a violation of a bylaw or rule of the town?
Well, if they're I think it's rather clear that if they're an enforcing person, they can enforce it. Mr. Flynn, would you address yourself to the quite legitimate question of do the police officers and the Board of Selectmen, are they enforcing persons for the enforcement of all violations? I think that's the gist of the question.
Is the question directed to the amendment or to the existing?
The amendment.
Mr. Moderator.
The amendment.
Now and if the amendment passes, police officers have the right to enforce violations of town bylaws. That's a right given them by statute. And the reason for the wording of the amendment is to keep the present practice under law. This amendment would track the statutory procedure. In addition, that each official or department has the right and would have the right to enforce violations of regulations or bylaws within their jurisdiction under this bylaw and administratively and, if necessary, in a court. They have that authority today, but it's a criminal process. If this amendment were adopted, it would be a non-criminal process. The one additional element to further answer an earlier question, Mr. Moderator, is that if there is a resolution at the town level, there is in effect a ticket system or a citation, and a fine or penalty would be paid there. I don't think I made that clear before. On the one hand, you have the right of appeal, but certainly if there's an agreement, the matter would be resolved administratively by payment of a fine or penalty under the bylaw.
Mr. Giuliano next.
Yes, Frank Giuliano, Precinct 3. My concern, as I had in the past, is that these are alleged violations. I think we think of alleged violations in this country, that you're innocent until proven guilty. This says that you'll be fined $300 for every offense that someone says that you're committing without any trial. And if it takes 30 days before you can get to a district court, if you think you're right, you may be right, you may be wrong, that's what the courts are for. But if it takes 30 days, it means you owe $9,000 before you get there. And that's such a large sum, and this is, I think, what was Mr. Whiteside was talking about. That's such a large sum, is that it humbles us to the state, to the selectmen, to the police. It humbles us. We just can't afford to take a chance to say that we may be right in this alleged violation, and so we have to do something in sort of a police state because of that fine. And I would say vote against this and make sure that doesn't happen to any of us.
Mr. Mullen?
One final question. Does this article require a two-thirds vote in order to carry?
No. I don't think so. Majority.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to speak to the pending article.
You certainly are recognized.
As I understand what the current system, it's a criminal system, and if there's an alleged violation of a bylaw or regulation of the town, the enforcing officer issues a citation saying that there's been a violation. It goes to court, it's decided, and a judge decides whatever penalty is going to, if there is a violation and whether there's going to be a penalty imposed or not, and the amount of that penalty. As I understand the import of this amendment, what would happen would be it would be a non-criminal proceeding. The enforcing officer would find that there's a violation, determine the amount of the fine, and then if the citizen was unhappy with that result, the citizen would have the right to appeal to the district court, presumably declining to pay the fine, declining to change their conduct, and running the risk that they would be prosecuted for each continuing day of violation. I think the concerns raised by Mr. Whiteside and Dr. Giuliano are real and legitimate ones. I'm sure that it's an inconvenience and maybe even a burden to have to go to the district court in order to enforce town bylaws. But I don't think it's such a burden that we ought to change this, and I'd urge a no vote. Thank you.
Mr. Flynn is recognized to further clarify the operation of this proposed change to the bylaw.
Mr. Moderator, I may have contributed to some confusion here by using the word appeal, and if so, I apologize. Now, and if this bylaw is adopted, the amendment is adopted, these violations are not self-enforcing. The town now and then would have to go to court to enforce a violation of the bylaw. If I said something that suggested that that process was different, I apologize. That essentially is the same process under the amendment as exists now. We cannot self-enforce, we cannot force compliance with a bylaw. We would have to go to court under the new system, to the district court, as we do now. The fine is the same. Now it does not exceed $300 a day. That is the same fine in the amendment. The difference, the major difference is, number one, it is not a criminal process, and number two, there's a slightly different administrative level with tickets and everything. It's more of a bureaucratic process, but again, thank you, Mr.
You want to be
Moderator.
recognized again, Ms. Mullin?
I guess I'd ask, who has the burden of proof in the proceeding in the district court? Does the officer have to prove the violation, or does the citizen have to prove that they're in compliance? And I guess my other question would be, who determines the amount of the fine? Is it the district court judge, or is it the officer saying it's $300 and then having to prove that there was the violation?
Mr. Flynn?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, the town would have the burden of proof in the court, number one, and the court, if it went to court, it would be the court's decision, A, was there a violation, and B, if so, what is the penalty? The fine would not exceed $300 a day, but it's a court's decision as to what the fine would be. That is essentially what the story is today. The court, if the town seeks to enforce to prosecute a violation of the town bylaws, the bylaw today provides for a fine not to exceed $300. It's the court's decision as to what that fine would be.
Mr. Livingston?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to make a motion to delete that bankruptcy clause there, that each day that such violation continues shall be a separate offense.
Your motion is again?
My motion is to delete the very last sentence of this zoning change.
Is there a second to that motion? It's been moved and seconded. I'll hear argument on the motion to amend.
The reason for the motion is, as eloquently stated by Dr. Giuliano and Mr. Mullen, anyone waiting for adjudication in the court system could see a staggering price of a $9,000 fine, when in the event it may have only cost them $1,500 to make the correction to whatever the problem was. So I feel that that's like a bankruptcy clause that isn't necessary in this article.
Anyone else wish to address the pending motion to amend the recommendation of the Warrant Committee? Can we get the position of the Warrant Committee on the motion to amend your recommendation? Do you wish to speak, Mr. Whiteside? You're recognized.
I'd like to speak to the amendment. It does seem to me that, as I said before, the problem is the Enabling Act, which has this $300 maximum and then provides that each day of violation is a potential $300 hit. What could be done here, and probably what should be done rather than just limit the penalty to $300, is to have some standards by which one could determine when an extra day warrants an extra $300. In other words, I do think that it could be workable. It could be workable if there were standards describing how the offense would be continuing daily. Currently, it just is too vague and it's too open to abuse. So I would support the amendment, although I do think the best thing to do is kill the article and rewrite it.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to speak on the amendment. I want to make my own amendment.
Anybody else on the amendment? All those in favor of the motion to amend, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No.
We don't have a recommendation.
Oh, wait a minute. We'll get the recommendation of the warrant committee and we'll try it again. Sorry, Mary. If you hang in there, I'll entertain the motion to adjourn after we dispose of this article.
You can't speak on the numbers anyway.
Mr. Moderator, may I just ask a point of
Yes, you may.
information?
You're recognized.
Bonnie Hallisey, Precinct 3. Did I hear Mr. Flynn say that the amount of the fine currently is $300?
Yes, and it's criminal in nature. All
Okay.
this article...
So that the comments of the warrant committee are not accurate, that this is not to increase the amount of the fine.
That's right. No, it is accurate.
It does not increase it from $20 to $300, that it currently is at $300. Is that correct?
I don't know. But I'm not the town council. It is currently at 300. It's currently at 300. It was amended. That is correct.
Okay, so that this article just changes it from being criminal to non-criminal?
That's the whole point of the article, as it's been explained to me.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Moderator?
The comment does say that it would increase the scope, but that apparently is not accurate, as we've just found out, Mr. O'Leary. All right. Now,
Mr. Moderator,
we're still on the amendment.
has there been a resolution to that amendment?
Not yet.
Will you entertain another motion?
No, not till I get rid of this one.
Please do.
We're still waiting for the recommendation of the warrant committee, and then I'm going to take the vote. Because the last time you voted, I couldn't tell. That means we're going to have a
I'll
standing
yell
vote, so
louder.
speak up.
Not going to have a quorum if he waits too much longer. Yeah. We're going to have a Delta quorum here any minute.
I know, I'm going to adjourn after this. What is the recommendation of the warrant committee? It can't take that long to come up with a recommendation on this. No, it doesn't.
The warrant committee recommends a no vote.
Recommends a no vote. All right, we'll proceed to the vote. All those in favor of the amendment to delete the last sentence, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The ayes have it. It's deleted.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion.
You're recognized.
John Fasano, Precinct 4, I'd like to make a motion to table this. Do I have a second? Can I
All those in
speak on the
favor-
motion?
Favor of tabling this, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The ayes have it. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn till Thursday at 7:30.
Thank you very much.
All those in favor say aye. Thank you for your patience.